Hello, hello, hello. A very warm welcome to all our friends, viewers, stakeholders, fans of Africa Rise with Susan West. It's a beautiful Sunday here in London today, and I do hope that wherever you are joining the broadcast from, that you've had a wonderful day and a good weather. Yes, so today we want to talk about Nigeria at 63. Nigeria's Independence Day is always celebrated on the 1st of October of every year. And as many of us Nigerians know, that as the years have gone on, it has become more of a day that reminds us of the bitterness, the suffering, the shame, the pain that a country like Nigerians as a people face. This day is a day that, as children growing up, was a day to celebrate, a day that made us very happy. We created happy moments, celebrated at school, celebrated in churches, at cultural events. In fact, everybody in Nigeria, every culture, every ethnic group came together on October 1 to celebrate the oneness of Nigeria. But as time has gone on, it has become a day that reminds us of the failure that we have become as a country. Um, and so today we're not gonna be putting on makeup on the face of Nigeria. We will want to talk about the ugliness, the disappointment that a country that like Nigeria has over the years, accomplished. And the reason why, when we sing the national anthem, it's no longer a thing of pride. It's no longer something that awakens in you the patriotic, spirit for your country. As you join the broadcast, please do the needful share, like, follow, subscribe to all our channels. If you haven't liked, followed, or subscribed before, please do so now. And once you do so, on YouTube especially, please press the notification bell so that you are made aware when. Okay, I struggled to come on the broadcast today. The reason is because I wasn't sure what I wanted to talk about. I wasn't sure if we will continue the pretense as though everything is okay with Nigeria, as though everything was, hunky dory with Nigeria, like we've been doing over the years. A situation where a family knows that they have issues, but to the outside world, they want to paint a picture as though everything is fine. And indoors, we know that it is not fine. Of course, the more we put on makeup and covers on all the issues that we deal with as Nigerians, the more we went into deeper hole of misery and failure and woes. So today's broadcast is not a broadcast where we will be talking about the greatness of Nigeria. In fact, we will be pointing fingers as to how the decadence and the failure started. This morning, I was watching, Arise News TV in Nigeria, which I always do every morning when I can. I just wanted to hear the perspective of whoever they might bring on the program, to discuss about Nigeria 63 and just hear a little bit of ridiculousness of whatever they might be celebrating at 63. And then I stumbled upon the part where the anchors were asking questions to Pa Adebanjo and Chief Ezefe. And the responses they gave, you know, tickled my mind, and I realized, oh my God, all of the issues that every African country has been facing has never been unique to any African country. The reason every African country have struggled to develop, to prosper, are the same issues, the same reasons, and it's only taken us so many years to come to a place of understanding of how the external finger have been pinching and controlling, manipulating our destiny as a people. So really quickly, um, I would not like for this broadcast to go on for so long today. So when I listen to the elder statesmen on the Arise News TV talking about, a question was asked: has there been any time at all that Nigeria ever got it right? 63 years after independence. Has there been any time at all that Nigeria ever got it right? When did it ever work? And the elder statesman, Chief Ezeife, painted a picture, and from that picture, I understood what then happened. He did mention about the independence took place and the constitution at the time, the pre independence constitution that was crafted, seemed to have worked for Nigeria, seemed to be working for Nigeria because you had all these geopolitical zones, allowed to thrive. And the spirit of competition was encouraged. And so Nigeria was prospering. But it, though a certain part of Nigeria was prospering much more than the other. And in 1965, the World Bank, this is the fifth year after independence, the World Bank made the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, IMF, I can't remember now, made a statement and pointed to the fact that a certain part of Nigeria is fast developing and growing more than anywhere else in the world. So this was not a statement of a certain part of Nigeria was growing faster than the other part of Nigeria. It was fingered that a certain part of Nigeria was growing faster than the rest of the world. Now, you must understand that the reason China in our lifetime came to the place where they are now is because competition was encouraged. Every village, every town, every city had to produce something, and there was the spirit of competition, which meant that the best of the best brought the best out of them. And so the regions began to grow and prosper. So, in the case of Nigeria, why was this different? What was different about Nigeria? The moment the World Bank pointed out the fact that a certain part of Nigeria was prospering much more than the rest of the world, then a coup d'etat happened. A coup happened. The military took over. And when the military took over, the beginning of the decadence and the nosediving and the downward drift of Nigeria as an economy started. And it hasn't ended or stopped or even halted. So when Chief Ezeife pointed to this fact, then I realized that they come in the daytime and they talk about democracy, they talk about economic development, these world bodies. Yet, when African countries get it right or try to get it right or are on a path to prosperity, something went wrong. Something goes wrong. There is a fingering that happens, which is why in this generation, Africans do not trust these so-called world bodies like the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, and their likes. So I'm just going to take a very short break and we will continue. I think I was supposed to have some guests. I think they're trying to join. I'm just going to try and see what's going on with them. Enjoy this music in the meantime. Thanks for staying. So I was just trying to help my friends who want to join on the broadcast on. They're still struggling, but we'll just carry on with the conversation. So, as it were, in 1966, a coup d'etat began in Nigeria on the 15th of January 1966 when mutinous soldiers led by Chukwuma Kaduna Nziogo and Emmanuel Ife Juna killed 22 people, including the Prime Minister of Nigeria, many senior politicians, many senior army officers, and their wives and sentinels on protective duty. The coup plotters attacked the cities of Kaduna, Ibadan, and Lagos, while also blocking the Niger and Benue River within a 2-day time span before being subdued. The general officer commanding the Nigerian army, Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, was compelled to take control of the government of a country in upheaval, inadvertently putting Nigeria's nascent democracy on hold. I'm not going to go on reading from Wikipedia for too long. I just wanted to give a little background of how that coup happened. And you might wonder if that coup was something that was brewed from the outside of Nigeria. Otherwise, why would the World Bank make that announcement and soon thereafter a coup happens in Nigeria and truncated democracy and economic development? People have argued that it doesn't matter who becomes the president of Nigeria. It doesn't become who takes over the leadership affairs of Nigeria. As long as the constitution as we currently have, the 1999 constitution as amended, continues to be the constitution that Nigeria operates by, there will be no miracle that can happen. There will be no traction that will be going because Pa Adebanjo in the morning when I listened to him did say something, and this is a Yoruba man, this is not an Igbo man, elder statesman from Yoruba land. He talked about if there is no justice and equity, how can there be peace? And the peace, the justice and equity and the peace we're talking about, if we had it, will favor every single Nigerian, Fulani, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and all of the ethnic groups of Nigeria. So, what is the reason why we are to the leadership or the politicians? What is the reason why they are unable, even though there has been an an effort put together by the former president Goodluck Jonathan about restructuring all of the things that they came up with at that time have not been implemented. And we know where the problem is. As it remains, the 1999 Constitution was designed by a certain group of military officers who were majorly from the north. So you find out that there is an imbalance. The Constitution seemed to favor a certain part of Nigeria much more than the rest of Nigeria. Are we looking or seeking for peace, equity, and justice? If we are, that Constitution, 1999 Constitution amended, must be done away with. That Constitution was not a constitution of the people, for the people, and by the people. It was written, constructed by a few military officers from the, certain part of Nigeria, region of Nigeria. Therefore, even if a saint was put in leadership position in Nigeria, they will never be able to attain success of any sort. And so today, as Nigerians are celebrating 63 years of independence, it should be a point where we begin to reflect. There's really nothing to celebrate about. Somebody once said something. There's some people say that wisdom comes with age, but they forget that fools as children, a person who was once a child and was foolish will grow up someday to become an elder. And because he becomes an elder doesn't make him wise. So the question is, simply because Nigeria is celebrating 63 years old, has she become wiser? And the answer is no, she hasn't, because she hasn't displayed, if she has, in any way, shape, or form, that she has learned and accumulated from experience, the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons of how to govern a people. And so, unlike previous years, when I come here on October 1st, I will play the national anthem. We will want to talk about merry moments that we remember as children, but today is not one of those days. Because when I look at even the national anthem, we once had an anthem that felt much more like an anthem that will unify or unite Nigerians much more than the anthem that we sing now. Because I heard a group of people singing the anthem today and I realized it did not even invoke in me, and I suspect in others, anything. The national anthem doesn't mean anything to Nigerians anymore. And that's because that Nigerian spirit, the Nigerian spirit is a spirit of hope, is a spirit of we can do this, is a spirit of it doesn't matter what's thrown at us, we will turn lemon into lemonade. But that spirit is beginning to dampen. Why? Because recently there was an election in Nigeria. And that election was seriously flawed. There was evidence that even the blind could see and feel. And the last hope of every man is the judiciary in a democracy. But guess what? The hopes of Nigeria was trampled. The hopes of Nigerians, again, was trampled by the judiciary. When the last hope of the common man, the judiciary, fails the people, then you begin to wonder, what's the way out? What's the way forward? And recently, one of the presidential aspirants of the past election, recently conducted elections, Alhaji Atiku, Atiku Abubakar, has gone to the United States to try and get the justice system that works, seem to work in America for Americans and their society, to get them to release the so-called, you know, certificate or whatever it is that the current president, sitting president Bola Ahmed Tinubu, seem not to want to be exposed. And like people ask questions, this is a man who says that he graduated as a first class student. If you did, why then do you not want your result or your certificate to be a public, you know, to be exposed? Why all of the counter appeals to the United States court asking for the court not to release his certificate? Even if some people have argued and sided with him that indeed he got an education in wherever schools and higher institutions that he said he's attended, there seemed to be no proof whatsoever. So, can you now imagine the speculation or the allegation that this current sitting president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, forged his certificate. So let's say his accusers were wrong. Why not allow for the justice system to prove that you were right and they were wrong? And then they can be sued. They can be dealt with to the full extent of the arms of the law. Ryan Haynes, thank you for joining. Yes, it is sad and it is corruption. But now that we know what the problem is, first, like I say to people, as much as nobody wants to fall ill, nobody wants to be sick. If you do fall sick and you find yourself in a hospital, a sophisticated hospital that is able to diagnose what your problem is, the bigger problem will be that no doctor is able to tell what is actually wrong with you. Now, that is a dire situation because without diagnosis, they cannot even begin to treat you for the disease. Nigeria has been able to diagnose what the problem with Nigeria is. So, why then are we not able to proffer solutions to the problems of Nigeria? And one of the places we must start from is do away with the 1999 Constitution. Now, I know that sounds and look like a task that is impossible. Why? Because as it stands now, the Constitution does favor a certain group of people who will never allow for that to happen. They will fight tooth and nail to make sure that it remains the way it is. But at the end of the day, do the people really do have the power as they say? If the people are more than the people occupying positions of office, why can't we stand up? It mustn't be an exact scenario like it's happened in Niger, but the people of Niger stood up. There were consequences. The consequences of Niger standing up was that Nigeria cut out electricity supply to their country. The other consequences is that international bodies were going to sanction them for whatever reason, even though they cannot openly come out and stand and defend, what France has been doing to Francophone Africa. So why can't we, Nigerians, stand up, take the bull by the horn, and stick by people who will know have had the audacity to come out as figureheads to fight for the common man in Nigeria? And as Pa Adebanjo and Chief Ezeife spoke this morning, my spirit was awakened to the fact that the downward drift of Nigeria was externally manipulated. But now that we know what the problem is, we must be the ones to fix it. If Niger could do it, we can do it. We don't need a coup d'etat to do it. Okay? We just know what the problem is. The problem is reset, write a new constitution, or go back at least, like Dr. Ezeife said, to the original constitution, pre-independence constitution that worked for Nigeria. When we do that, it will allow us, of course, to put into positions of authority the sort of leadership that we dream about. I supported Peter Obi during the last elections, even though I'm abroad, I could not vote. But I did all that I could to support Peter Obi. However, in hindsight, even Peter Obi could have been so limited to what he can achieve. He would have meant so well, but the system is so corrupt and full of manipulations, they would have frustrated every effort he would have tried to put in place. And that is the reason we must recognize what the root cause of the problem of Nigeria is and begin to find a way to solve those problems. Synovia Indigo, peace and love to you, sister. Thank you. Yes. So, like I said, I did not want this broadcast to be on for too long, but food for thoughts. We know what the problem of Nigeria is. Chief Ezeife also said something which all of us have talked about. Nigeria as a country, Nigerians as a people dashed the hope of the black race all over the world. If you listen to songs from people like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, all of these people, in those days they referred to Nigeria as though Nigeria was the holy land of the black race. And sometimes I just say to myself, if only they were here to see what that Nigeria they were very hopeful about, had what that Nigeria has become. Nigeria indeed has the responsibility to bring respect to Africa and Africans all around the world, regardless of where they reside. Blacks in the diaspora and on the continent and anywhere else you will find them. Nigeria has the onus of making sure that she brings back the pride of the black race. And Nigeria can only do that by solving its issues, doing away with the tribalism, ethnic ethnocentrism, religion. As someone made a comparison just not so long ago, I came across an article that talked about what Nigeria has and what Saudi Arabia has. Nigeria has religion, Saudi Arabia has religion. Nigeria has oil, Saudi Arabia has oil. Nigeria has tribalism. Saudi Arabia has no tribalism. And so it becomes clear. However, someone else also called the attention to a country. I can't remember if it is, it's an Asian country. And the person also pointed out the fact that there is different ethnic groups, tribes, tongues, religion in a particular country, yet they have taken all of the differences and made it their strength and they have prospered. Is that Malaysia or Singapore? I can't recall. So some of the things that we think are actually problems might not be a problem after all. After all, one of the most beautiful coats you can ever wear are coats of many colors, according to Dolly Parton. Oh, Starman Alpha, are you here? I think Starman is here. Starman, I'm about to call it a day, and here you are. Let's see here. What have I done? Okay, I think I have literally clicked on something and didn't realize what I clicked on. I'm just gonna try and fix it. Starman, I'm always very happy to have you, though you're coming in a bit late. But let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna take him off stream. I'm not sure. I think it's from his end. Okay, so basically that it is what it is. There will be no magic, there will be no miracle. We're gonna make conscious decisions and efforts. Thank you for joining Eddie Mbalo. Yes, there will be no magic, there will be no miracles, regardless of how much we pray. Prayer only helps in awakening our spirit to be attuned with the intentions and plan of the Most High. But it is incumbent on us to do the work. It is in doing the work that the miracle will actually happen. So, enough of us refusing to do anything practical in changing the destiny and fate of Nigeria and waking up every morning, speaking in tongues, praying on end to a God who has already answered all of your prayers a very, very long time ago. And even if you're a Christian, ask yourself, you profess Jesus as Lord and Savior. You profess that He's come to die for the sins of the world. You confess you have conquered over 2,000 years ago. Now ask yourself, you conquered 2,000, over 2,000 years ago. Why then do we keep only praying and praying and waiting for manna to fall from the sky? It will never happen. Look at what Niger did. Niger, go to the mosque. If you're a Christian who say that it is only you as a Christian who will make heaven, Niger, Nigerians, as far as I know, are Muslims. They go to the mosque and they pray. But guess what? No miracle happened until they got up, stuck by their guns, and asked France to leave. France had all of the cards to play, but this time around they couldn't because the will of the people was greater than any bombs and guns they could have threatened Niger with. Eddie Amambolo, thank you for joining from Guinea-Bissau. I think Starman is trying to join. So here's what I'm going to do if he might be having a difficulty. I'm going to just take a quick break and try and find out what Starman is trying to do. Thanks for staying. So Starman has just made me understand that his camera is acting up, so he might not be able to join us today. However, I think that I've said quite a bit, and we must gather the courage as Nigerians to get it right. I'm wearing green today. Green is the national color of Nigeria. The flag of Nigeria says green, white, and green. But as opposed to previous years, when we come around with a little bit of joy in our hearts on the 1st of October, today I come with not very plenty joy, other than gratitude to the Most High for seeing another day, because Nigeria continues to fail the black race. So let's be educated. Let's understand that not even a Peter Obi will be able to perform miracles. And God, in His infinite mercy and wisdom, understands why He allowed the manipulators to get themselves into positions of authority at this particular time. The reason is because I imagine, even if Peter Obi had become the president right now, they would have made sure he failed and made Nigerians look as though they were more foolish to have trusted in a man who has a clear conscience, a clear history that corruption has really got no hold on him. So, this will better help us understand the situation so that finally we will understand there will be no particular Messiah who will come and save Nigeria until the 1999 Constitution is done away with. So, for some people who might want to say Happy Independence Day, I would just probably say compliments of 1st of October for Nigerians and allow it to be a day that we remember where we could have been as opposed to where we are and the unfortunate situation that we pride ourselves with as Nigerians. And so I will not take too much of your time, but a sober and somber moment for Nigerians, for the Black people around the world. Ask yourself the question of why the World Bank announces in 1965 that a certain part of Nigeria seemed to be thriving much more than the rest of the world. And right after that announcement, a coup d'etat happens. Like somebody says, there are always coups on the African continent. Some are homegrown coups, others are, you know, supported by the West. And when they are supported by the West, they are not coups that they make a big deal about. So I beg to differ. Oh my God, Starman, you came on. I was trying to run away and now
No,
you're
no,
here.
no. If you, I just saw your link. I just saw your link now, and I was having issues with my webcam. I don't know what's going on with it. I had to reboot my computer. So you've been paying attention to what you were saying. But yeah,
Well, what have I been saying? More like a cry without tears, visible tears of the 1st of October as it concerns Nigeria. Once upon a time, 1st of October was a time when we celebrated the independence of Nigeria, but there isn't really so much of anything to celebrate about. So I just literally talked about listening to Arise News this morning and listening to Adebanjo, elder statesman, and Chief Ezeife, the former governor of Anambra State. And he made mention of something that really, really tickled my imagination, which is after independence, because a question was asked to him, which is, has there been a time ever that Nigeria ever worked or anything ever worked in Nigeria? And he went back to the fact that the constitution, the pre independence constitution, actually did work for Nigeria. And Nigeria was thriving. And then, is it the World Bank or IMF he mentioned? Now I haven't checked.
yeah,
Made an announcement about how a certain part of Nigeria was growing faster than the rest of the world. And soon after that announcement, a coup happens in Nigeria. And there began the nosediving of economy, political leadership, everything else just went awry. And so for me, I just realized okay, okay. So maybe, just maybe, what he failed to say, but I heard, is that perhaps the coup that happened in 1966 was externally, you know,
I've heard people say that before. That first coup. Some people say it was supposed to be a revolution because they were trying to kick out all the corrupt politicians. I've had it posited before that, there was some foreign string pullers behind it. So yeah, I mean, there's the history is going to come out in due time, as in more evidence. But the reality is, Nigeria was not even designed to be a country that worked for the black people in the country. Nigeria was a colonial construct by white people. And I didn't even remember it was independence today. I was speaking to a friend of mine earlier before I saw your message. And he was the one, he called me and he goes, Happy Independence. And I was like, what? Oh, like, Nigeria's independent. Like, does any Nigerian actually really believe they're independent? Like, they don't know what's going on between Niger and France, Mali and France, all those countries and France. What? They don't know what neo-colonialism means? What, do they think it's only France that's doing all that craziness in Africa? Oh, what? Look, do Nigerians think it's only France that has dirty linen in Africa? Or is Britain involved? Germany? Belgium? And hey, the big daddies, the Americans, you know? And if what's happening in Niger, between France, Niger, Mali, all those, if that's still going on in the 21st century, meaning that neocolonialism still exists, what's all this independence we're fully. If I'm under neo-colonialism, what does independence mean? Because the reason I'm supposed to be celebrating independence is because I thought colonialism stopped. But now I'm hearing neo-colonialism, and neo-colonialism only means new colonialism. So what independence? Like, why do we like fooling ourselves, lying to ourselves? I mean, I didn't even watch any Nigerian TV today. That's why I did, because I'm sure channels, NTA, they would have done all the military parade, all that nonsense. And yeah, watching that, every time I watch stuff like that, I'm just like, so this whole stadium full of people now doing this, they all believe this lie that they're celebrating some sort of independence. 50,000 people, plus those are independent. Why do we like fooling ourselves? You know, I've never seen a people that can harbor so much cognitive dissonance, you know, contradictory statements, paradox, like, oh, uh, nobody can rule Nigeria, not even Jesus. But the problem in Nigeria, we just need a good leader. Like, and then this same kind of contradiction today, you're celebrating independence, but you're under neo-colonialism. This is why I get into so many arguments with Nigerians, because you know, a lot of times, like talking to people who just go through the motions, who just say what they think. Oh, like they're not really thinking. They're just saying what they think flows with the conversation. You know.
Yeah. So, like Chief Ezefi also mentioned, how the destiny of Nigeria and Nigerians, or what Nigeria becomes or does not become, is the fate of the black race, because Nigeria was left with that responsibility to bring pride to the African or the black race, but they failed. Yeah, and I
So
agree with
so
you.
woefully, it's become a shame of the
A
black
shame,
race.
an
Big
embarrassment. Yeah.
shame.
Because you
See,
say that Nigeria is the most populous black nation on earth. They have made all these talk about 1 in 4 black
one in
person,
five, something
one
like,
in
yeah, one
five,
in five or something
one in
like that.
five black uh,
People
um,
is a Nigerian.
is a Nigerian around the world or in America, and we know that, of course, the major, um, when it comes to the slave trade, the massive number of people taken away from the continent was from that part of Africa.
Southern Nigeria
So,
was called the Slave Coast.
so like
Yeah.
I said, the broadcast today, I was very tired. I was very weak, not because I was tired of anything else, but when I watched TV and I saw them I am talking about independence and the march, I was feeling kind of depressed because we're no longer children. We know what's happening. So gone are the days where they will dress us up in nice outfits and we go and dance and we sing to the governor or the president to celebrate 1st of October.
Wave flag.
So instead of, you know, just the thought of it alone was just so depressing that I didn't even think whether I wanted to come up here today, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to say. Was I going to come up here to try and put on makeup on the face of Nigeria to make her look good, which is what we're very good at doing? We call ourselves the giant of Africa. We talk about all sorts of things. It is good to celebrate the good, the achievements, but when we look at it, what exactly have we achieved? What are the achievements that we want to celebrate?
Ni-
And
Nigeria is not the giant of Africa and was never going giant. Nigeria is a false dream that was sold to Nigerians, and unfortunately, many Nigerians bought it. That giant of Africa statement was a false dream. Oh, populous black nation. Oh, you could become such a giant. And then, they keep talking about Nigeria's economy being one of the top in Africa. Meanwhile, when you look at the people, that economy doesn't translate or trickle down to them. Now, why I say it was a false dream, hmm? The countries on the African continent, you need to stabilize. Stabilize these two countries and there will be peace. Nigeria and Congo, there will be peace, largely. And to keep Africa exploited, you need these two countries destabilized. Now, Nigeria is such a powder keg in itself that you need to be careful how you destabilize it. So, Nigeria is destabilizing Nigeria. And I guess from colonization, all you need to destabilize Nigeria is grammar. So, it is, I don't know if you heard, I mean, you heard, oh, Britain, you can now you can apply for visa directly from the East. And everybody was jumping up, happy, directly from East to Britain. The other time they were recruiting Nigerians into the British Army. Like, and Nigerians were happy. You know, when, when I say it's a false dream, that giant of Africa nonsense, the reality is Nigeria has turned out to be an ant of Africa.
just
No
don't
real,
don't 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 lose your line of thought of what you want to say. But I just wanted to contribute to what you were saying. Like
yeah,
just a couple of days ago, I saw a video of the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, campaigning to be re-elected for a second term. And guess what? The lies he was telling, and the shock is not the lies only that he told. It was the response of the the young people who attended the rally or whatever it was, the campaign. He said that 5,000 Imo youths were going to be taken to Europe and employed in Europe. And once their visas or whatever it is was out, the government was going to pay for their ticket. And they were there shouting and celebrating and, you know, rooting for him. And I just thought, was this a higher crowd? It must have been a higher crowd. It must have been that they've been paid to attend a campaign rally and their brain just went dead because they weren't even listening to what he was saying. Because first, it's like, let me take it on a larger scale. It's like the president of Nigeria coming to tell Nigerians during a campaign that when I win election, I will make sure all of you have visa to go abroad and get employed. First of all,
Right.
isn't that an admission that this is a big failure who cannot even create
Right.
at home, wants to export us out? And one comedian said, remember, this is how slavery started. He made a joke, he made light of what Hope Uzodima was saying. But this is just to also add to what you were saying. Like the elaborate lies told in broad daylight, and they say that we're one of the smartest people in the world, but it doesn't show in the way we respond to these people and their funny stories they come about. They come saying in openly, bravely, like they just say it, and no one is countering it. No one is asking questions. Everyone is in that euphoria of the moment for whatever bribe they must have given them to attend that rally.
Yeah, and hey, I can tell you who paid for that crowd. The number one chief organizer in Igbo land, Ifeanyi Uba. He is so a rent a crowd is not a new thing in Igbo land. In fact, if you want to win an election in Igbo land, just go and pay your dues to Ifeanyi Uba. You know, if you want, if you commit a crime and you want people to be cheering for you that you actually did something good, Ifeanyi Uba will get you people to, So I mean, 5,000. So where does it stop? Is it just 5,000? And this is them pretending that the UK doesn't have an immigration problem, that they're now trying to kick people back to Rwanda and even Ascension Island. Do you know where Ascension Island is? As Go and get Google Maps. Go to the very middle of the Atlantic. Very middle. Look, zoom in, and it is a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic. They call it the end of the world. I think there's almost no trees there. It's an island Britain colonized. In fact, it's been still Britain's colony till today. There are about 300 British people living there or something. And then America seized it briefly from Britain during the Second World War to use it as a unsinkable aircraft carrier. Along the same concepts of what China is doing with those islands in Southeast Asia today. So, the British people, we're in a recession, heading to a depression, and you're bringing more immigrants. Even me, that I'm even here, I'm scared because I know how these things work. When they enter that depression, they'll start blaming all the immigrants. You are the reason for all our problems. And when they're blaming those immigrants, they're not going to stop to ask, wait, do you have a British passport? Were you born? Nah, man.
You're black.
You don't look British. Sorry. Yeah, I don't buy black British because you don't have heritage here. Black British is just a government label. So, see, me saying I'm scared, it's not it's not that I don't want Igbo people to come to the UK, but it's not a solution. Me, even here in the UK, I want to go back to Igbo land, but not Igbo land in Nigeria, Igbo land in Biafra. So I can create my own job. I can do my own thing, live my own life. This nonsense of Africa being, I've been giant of Africa than Nigeria. Like I said, it's a dream that was sold to Nigerians to make them keep believing that they could create this thing that could never be created, which was a unified, economically viable Nigeria. It's impossible. 51 different ethnic groups can never be unified. Even in Europe, where all of them fall under Indo-European languages, look at them today, Germanic, Slavic people, neighbors. Are they not fighting? Albania and Kosovo, they're about to kick off again. So let's stop, pretending that somehow It's us in Africa that is so special. Us in Nigeria that is so special that 51 different ethnic groups can forget all their differences and unify somehow, all for the sake of becoming this giant of Africa. It's a false dream. And the irony is, many people have held on to it so much, they refuse to see any other ways of doing things. If you tell them, let's break up Nigeria, you want war. Meanwhile, break it up into Nigeria into more manageable chunks is actually no. Look, anybody can come and try and debunk me. In fact, just not to waste my own time at this stage, put $1,000 down, and we'll call an audience. You put down your merits why Nigeria should remain. I'll put down my merits why Nigeria should break. In fact, please do it quickly because I need money for Christmas.
Starman. But it's still, for me, when Chief Ezeife was talking about the constitution, pre-independence constitution that worked for Nigeria, that is an alternative way of still having a Nigeria that works for everybody, isn't it?
Why did it go wrong?
It went wrong because there was a coup that happened. There was an intervention by the military. And after that, we,
Okay, so let's talk about
mm,
restructuring. So a lot of people, for them, restructuring is going back to what we had. That period is Chief Ezeife was talking about. That's when some people say restructuring, that's what they want. Some people want resource controls. Restructuring means a million different things to a million different people. But for a large section of people is going back to that regional system. Now, for people like me, the fact that that regional system devolved into the chaos that is today's Nigeria means it's not even the
no, it
solution.
did not devolve into this chaos. Something happened. There was an interference. There was,
Anything can happen. And if we go back to that tomorrow, another coup can happen. It's like and there's another thing people tend to. I think many of us we tend to become so biased in our present, and we completely lose all cognizance or consideration of history, and we forget to realize that history goes in loops.
repeats itself sometimes.
You know, so every time the world goes through serious economic society, a strong or a bad man emerges. Hitler emerged once. He's going to emerge again. I've been saying this. See, when the dollar collapses, two things. There's going to be another Hitler and slave trade will start again. And
How?
a third one even. They'll
How?
crush.
Prophet of doom. How?
And the third one, they'll crush feminism. No more. Oh my, nah, man. This is the cycle of history. Just go and look through all those Mycenaeans, Minoans, the Greeks. Societies become prosperous. They give rights, liberalize, even slaves, all sorts of things, and then everything collapse. Not that I'm saying that this is uh, basically this a cycle of Eurasian history. I think it's something to do with existing under hierarchies. At some stage, the hierarchies become so unbalanced, they it tumbles somehow. And Western society is their Eurasian, is the Eurasian civilization, and you can see the same symptoms. Everything's is everything's devolving. A strong man is going to rise, and when he rises, they're going to do some pretty hard, horrible things again because that's what strong men do. That's why strong men get elected to do the horrible things other people won't do. That's just the reality of it. And um, going back to that regional system, like I said, if we went back to it tonight, another coup can happen tomorrow. Another one, somebody crazy person can come, and that IBB can. See, like I said, why I'm so confident about the debate, I challenge people to $1,000 so I can spend for their money for Christmas. It's because there's something I call the ABC of self determination, and the survival of a society relative to their neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Eh? The ABC of self determination and the survival of a society relative to their neighbors. So, if you have, I think I probably even said it on here before. I can't remember. If you have two groups of people, two populations, two different tribes, two different ethnic groups, population A, population B, you put two of them inside one country, one state, state X, meaning that these two different people with two different cultures, different worldviews, different ideologies, different paradigms, the only thing that brings them together is that they are neighbors. But then you force them into one country where they have to share one state apparatus. State apparatus, I mean, one presidency, executive, judiciary, legislature, military, which includes Navy, Air Force, Army, police, banks, embassies, ministries. They have to share everything. Yeah? What you've created right there, especially in a situation where one of those groups, their own land in that country, is where all the resources are. You've created the perfect scenario for genocide. That's all you've done. Because the day the group without the resources gets into power, and as Buhari has shown us, and as we see all across Africa, the kind of nepotism that African leaders practice from I'm president, my cousin is chief of army staff, my brother is chief of navy staff, my next tribesman is head of police, my wife is ministry of this. The kind of nepotism we've seen in Africa and in Nigeria, especially this so-called Nigeria, and thanks to Buhari for showing us the height of it. Eh? So imagine me and you. I'm country B, you're country A. I'm the country with the resources. Sorry, I'm the ethnic group with the resources. You are the ethnic group without the resources. And then you guys have been watching us for years, using those resources, building up our society. Yeah, because we're in the same country, sometimes we'll give you small, but yeah, we've been building up our society. And then one day your own guy gets into power. And your own guy is one of these crazy, ambitious Hitler, Stalin types. And he exercises nepotism. His aim being, I need those resources because I need to build my own people. And when he monopolizes like that, he's not going to share. He's not going to share. It's not charity. He's going to, this is why I said it's perfect setup for genocide. Because it's going to be by force, by decree. And if you speak up, what's going to happen? Police action. In your own country, your own resources. Police, is that not what's happening to Niger Delta? When they speak up, our resources, it's not even police in Nigeria, it's army. Go and bomb. Army with jet fighter and bomb. Over people talking about using their own resources. So, your population A now is in power. They've monopolized everything. They've used nepotism to monopolize legislature, judiciary, executive, embassies, ministry, everything. And now they're extracting those resources unbridled. Nobody can stop them now from the other people. And for that to be happening, the other people have to be subjugated. Because me, I won't just be there and be watching you. Oh, okay, because you're president now, you're now coming to literally take a. I'll be watching you now. At some stage, I'll kick back and punch back and then shoot back even. But this is not a war. This is a genocide. Why? Because I have absolutely no control of state apparatus. I control no army. I control no tanks. Any guns I have is from the black market. I have no legitimate control of any force. You have it all because you are president now. And then start killing me. And then if I run to the international community and say, okay, oh, guys, you're killing me in my country. Look what's happening. You will use the embassy to counter me as, oh, I'm a propagandist. In fact, I'm a terrorist. Because back in the day, it would have been I'm a rebel. But these days, the new buzzword is terrorist. So, oh, they're just terrorists. And once the world hears terrorists, they just the other way. Now giving you license, me and my own people to hell. And me even saying this, it could get worse. It could be that the reason you even want those resources is by foreign manipulation. Maybe one of those hegemons, you know, they know you guys, you don't have resources. You need resources. So they come to you. They'll rather not negotiate with me because I'm going to slap them with the real price. So they'll come to you, guys. Okay, so let's work, steal it for us. Here's your share. So of course they're going to come to you. So imagine if the foreigners are actually why you're now invading me for my resources. Meaning that me even running to the international community is like complaining to the source of my own problems. It's them that will even say, oh, those guys, secessionists. Nah, don't listen to them. You now have license to commit genocide because they'll use their BBC, Voice of America, everything to sanitize you. Look at Buhari with all the killing of Christians. They'll still give him a podium in UN to speak. As if they didn't know he was. Did we not see all the people from Benue, Southern Kaduna, in an American Senate talking about the killings? Didn't they know? But they still give him a podium. Now, let's look at this scenario again. Population A, population B. But this time, you have your own country. I have my own country. You have your own state apparatus. I have my own state apparatus. Police, army, banks, embassies, everything. Yeah? You don't have resources. I have resources. You don't want to do trade because, I don't know, maybe whatever. Maybe it's profitable stealing it. Or, again, maybe there's foreign manipulation behind you. Oh, go. Don't worry, we'll give you guns. Go and invade them. If you get the resources, we'll help you build up your country. Yeah? In this scenario, it's not a genocide. It's a war now, at least. The worst case is a war, at least. Because me too, I have my own state apparatus. I have my own army, my own embassy, my own army, tank, jet fighter, embassy. So if you attack me, it's not just going to be a couple, just like how Middle Belt people and Southern Kaduna were buying plane tickets, going, maybe one charity will sponsor them to the Senate to go and cry to the Americans. It won't be a case of that, of one individual buy plane tickets, go and cry at the UN, oh, they are killing my people. No, I'll have my own embassy to petition every nation in the so-called UN that, look, this is a war of aggression. There are laws, there are rules against wars of aggression. And this is supposedly a so-called signatory to the UN charters or whatever. So nobody can brand me terrorist, rebel, secessionist, or any of that bullshit. Population A cannot tag me with any of that bullshit. And even if their own foreign allies is supplying them all the guns, weapons, hey, I have the resources. I control those resources. There's going to be another hegemon that's going to be willing to give me guns, jet fighters, tanks for those resources. So you will not have a genocide. This is why I keep saying the solution to Africa is self-determination. It's not even just Nigeria. Nigeria first. Nigeria to save lives. To save lives. Nigeria must be balkanized. And it's the only way to ensure that all those different ethnic nations, their languages, their cultures survive. If you create if you create, first of all, there is no Nigerian identity, but people still keep trying to create it. Now, to create a one Nigeria identity, you have to debase all the other cultures. If you debase them, they are gone. People think cultures don't die, languages don't die.
They do.
Latin. Latin was once spoken all over the so-called civilized Europe, even North Africa. Look at Latin today. Who speaks Latin? But there are a lot of books in Latin,
Mm-hmm.
dated. But who speaks Latin today? As
In
Latin,
Catholic
language of the
countries.
so-called Roman Empire, empire of 1,000 years, still died. If you have a language and your language is not the official language of your country, that everybody does business in, education in, everything, science in, that language is going to die. Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa cannot, well, Igbo and Yoruba especially, and all those other languages in South, they cannot continue existing as second fiddle languages to English forever. One day, a certain generation will forget all of it. Right now, with each generation, they're forgetting more and more of those languages because they don't do business in those languages. They don't go to court in those languages. They don't, the constitution, you take an Igbo, some people, they don't even, the constitution is not in their mother tongue. One day, these languages will die. It's as simple as that. As we speak, there are languages that are even dying across Africa. Some languages you go, they say there are only 2 speakers left. The people are still there, but there's only 2 speakers left because everybody's now speaking French.
Mm. Starman.
Yeah. So yeah, that giant of Africa is a nonsense dream. It's a dream Nigerians will chase forever.
And
I
just
you say?
and just before we call it a day, what are your thoughts on this Tinubu and Atiku situation in America, where Atiku has finally gotten the courts in the US to release Tinubu's certificate or results or whatever it is they're trying to get? And I heard that Tinubu had written an appeal against that being released. And again, just recently I heard that it's been denied, which means whatever it is going to come out. My question is, if all of the obedient movement with the power and the support of the young people, if these people could still manipulate the system all the way to the judiciary, what difference is that going to make eventually when it's released?
Nothing is going to happen. See, anyway, the obedience. It's a shame that by the time they wake up and realize all this, their best years will be long gone. Many of them are young, impressionable. They still think Nigeria has hope. But by the next cycle, where the presidency comes to the South, which is 16 years from now, many of them in their 20s now will be in their 40s. In their 30s now will be in their 50s. That's their best years gone, waiting for rubbish, waiting for nothing to happen. If it's not even waiting for worse to happen, because if you look at the caliber of Nigerian politicians, I mean, in the 60s, it was people like Zeke, Awolowo, even the Fulani Saudana Ahmadu Bello. Even his English was crisp, Queen's English, But look at the bulk of them today. They can't even speak any decent sentence without grammatical error. Even their accents, you can. Tinubu sounds like an area boy putting on an American accent from his ear. That's what it sounds like. So what's the hoo-ha about his results? I mean, I've never seen it so difficult. Someone show why is it so you are willing to run for the top job in the country, but ordinary result just show it.
None,
And,
even from his
look,
primary school to his secondary school, none.
look, and let me tell you something about the Americans. Yeah, why do we keep falling for these guys? You guys, you see, the native Indian said, "White man talk with fork tongue." He was talking to the Americans, the white ones. He talk with fork tongue. One side is saying one thing, one side. See, they're just doing you Nigerians. Pull your head, your brain. Slap from this side to this side. Slap, slap. The Americans like Tinubu. They like a man they have a lean on. They're only going to make all this, oh, we're going to release it. We're going to release it so that you think they're actually on your side. And then when they don't release it, they'll, oh, some technical court jargon. Oh, sorry, some technicality in court. We can't, you know. Oh, but no, don't worry. We'll try and release it. So that you don't actually see that Tinubu is their boy.
Maybe he wasn't originally their boy, but now that he's found himself in this position and he has a lot of dirty
Yes,
things to
exactly.
hide.
He was just the right man at the right time for them. Oh, this guy's got so much dirt. We got to lean on him.
Because that's all it is. Any foreign powers need on any African leader. So that
Yes.
anytime you feel like your brain wants to reset to do anything right for your people, then they show you what it is, your dirty leanings, and say,
Yes.
and then you're back to do exactly as they want.
Exactly.
I'm just going to take a quick read. King Kenyatta has written quite a few. So he says, in my humble opinion, there is no such thing as independence or sovereignty on the African continent. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger so far are the only ones that have real independence and sovereignty. Also, in my humble opinion, he says, what are you really celebrating? You don't have control of your natural resources, and foreign multinational companies control your economy, which is what I started saying
Yeah.
when I started this
Yeah.
broadcast. I didn't come here with the ignorance that we had for so many years to say, Happy Independence, Nigeria. 63 years of foolishness, of mumurity.
Nzuzu. Yeah, there was a question I asked on Twitter. I was like, why did they call Nigeria a zoo? And then I answered it myself. Because it's a country filled with 200 million Ndi Nzuzu. You know what Ndi Nzuzu means in Igbo? Ndi means the people. And then Nzuzu of just stupidity, like stupid.
No, Nigerians are not
Yeah.
stupid. I refuse for Nigerians to be insulted like that. We're not in Zuzu. We're not. We're not. We're very smart people. Quite a few people are foolish, and they're not foolish because they were just born foolish, but they have been made ignorant. They are not educated. They are hungry. They're thinking from their stomachs. So I refuse to accept Indu Zuzu. Indi Zuzu. I refuse to accept that one.
It's one of my most popular tweets.
We are a sophisticated people. Unfortunately, like I said, when you have a sickness, when you have a disease that you know is troubling your body, and you walk into a hospital, it is true that you're sick. It's a problem, but guess what? There is a bigger problem when no doctor certified can diagnose to say this is exactly what the disease or the
Yeah.
sickness is,
Yeah.
because without that, they cannot begin to treat.
Yeah.
So for Nigeria, or at least the whole of Africa right now, we know what the problem is. Thank goodness we
See,
know what the problem is. Now, what's the way forward?
see,
How?
when I say Nigerians in Zuzu, I'm not the first. I mean, Nnamdi Kanu called them a zoo.
It doesn't
This was
matter
what led to
who
my
calls the
question.
first or second.
Fela,
I refuse
Fela
to
said they were
accept.
zombies.
No, they are zombies. Everybody
Lagbaja
cannot be
said,
smart,
Lagbaja
but
sang a song for them.
everybody cannot be brushed with the same paint of
No.
Indizuzu.
There's a reason why people like me or us say these things. Because even Lagbaja sang a song for them. Lagbaja, you've heard that song, 200 million Mumu.
Well,
And Mumu is like Ndinzuzu.
yeah, well,
See, let me tell you why.
that
Yeah,
is
let me tell
because
you
we
why.
refuse. In other words,
See,
it's because we refuse to get up and do anything
exactly.
about
Nigerians refuse to
the
rise up. Nigerians
situation.
want a
Just like
revolution, but they are waiting for Jesus Christ to come and do it for them.
on that note, yeah, with
You
that
have to
kind
call
of
that out.
yes, I agree to an extent, but
Yeah.
still a little sensitive about accepting to be called a Zuzu. King Kayana says, I'm too smart to allow anybody label me as Zuzu. Indi Zuzu.
No. See. Wait. So to me, there are two types of people in Nigeria.
Mhm.
There are the people that are still in that zombie mind state of being a Nigerian. And then there are those that are in their minds, they are no longer Nigerians. Because they know the whole thing is a fraud. So there are two types of people in Nigeria. There are those who think they are Nigerians, and there are those who know they are not Nigerians. And you have them in every different ethnic group. As long as anybody from anywhere you hear talking about self-determination, he's one of those that is not in that zone, that's awoken from that zombie mind state of, oh, I'm a Nigerian, wherever they are from. Now, they cannot be classified as Ndinzuzu. But for anyone else, still, oh, Nigeria, giant of Africa, happy independence. Nigeria is going to work one day. That is Nzuzu behavior. Come on,
Yeah.
let's not sugarcoat it.
All right. So
You're
that's
lying to
yeah.
yourself, and then
Yeah.
you're lying to other people. And then you believe your own lies. Nigeria is going to be better one day. Come on, man.
Yeah. We told ourselves a lie for so long, we started believing it, and we
Yeah,
believed it until now when we woke up from,
yeah.
Synovia Indigo says, Snake Tongue, she's trying to help you when you were talking about the
A white
Oyibo
man.
people having, talking from, yeah. King Kayada says, the hidden fingers have been pinching and manipulating and controlling our destiny on the continent for too long. It's time for it to come to a permanent end. And on that note,
But we
Stama,
need to rise up because they won't look. They're not going to stop on their own. Look, it, imagine two bears. They find a jar of honey
mm,
from a trash can. They don't have a concept of sharing. One is not going to lick small and then give,
let the other,
unless it's a baby. Then the mother will lick small, give the baby. But as long as they are two adults, go and find your own jar of honey, I beg. Otherwise, it's fight. Europe and America, look, these people, their economy, they built economies addicted to growth. Any year or even not even a year, a quarter, the
yeah,
economy doesn't grow, they start panicking about recession and depression. And for them to keep growing, they need to be
yeah,
sucking somebody's life, which is those resources on the African continent. They will not stop
yeah,
they will, and Jesus is not coming. Look, anybody's still waiting for Jesus after 600 years of so they did slave trade for 350 years. They finished down. That wasn't enough for them. Oh,
hmm,
they did another 100 years of colonization. That still wasn't enough for them. Now we're going through 60 years of neo-colonization. So when exactly are they going to stop? When exactly? So we, the Africans, is in our hand, especially you, the young ones. Before, see, and I'm telling you, you watch your life pass by you. I wish my parents told me some of the things I tell you guys today. My parents, I was even lucky. They told me small about the Biafran War. But I have a lot of friends who didn't even know their dad fought in the war. They only found out maybe when he died or something, or another uncle told them. And that's an injustice. So, see, the Africans of today, you are going to have to rise up. You are going to have to fight. And I'm sorry, people will die. No, I've never seen any revolution anywhere in history, anywhere that people didn't die. Even the ones that were classified peaceful, even that one, Yeltsin and Russia, I think like 2 people still died. I've never seen any revolution anywhere in history that absolutely, because for some reason Africans, when you mention when they talk about any solutions, they are always talking about all these over elaborate things like and try and make it look so it has to be comfortable. I've even heard some of them talk we have to get economy right before we kick them out. How do you get your economy right when they're controlling it? You know, how do you get your economy right when the people you want to kick out are actually controlling it? So we keep coming up with all these, and to me, those are solutions not to actually do anything. Because deep down, you know you're not going to get that economy right. That's just opening your mouth to say something because you think, yeah, it is something that people would like to hear. It's not a solution. People are going to have to die. I don't want people to die. But if we want freedom,
It's not going to come on a platter.
they are not going to. When they did slavery, with all their were Christians, our conscience, they even when they said okay, let's stop, they still didn't stop because after slavery, immediately after was Jim Crow in America, immediately after in Africa was colonization. Did they stop? Why are we still complaining today if they stopped? So if they've been doing this now for 550 years, when exactly would they wake up and say, okay, guys, white people, you know what, we've done so much now. Let's just stop now. Is that how they're going to stop? Is that what we are waiting for?
Hmm.
Or Jesus, God will send thunder from. God didn't send that thunder when they were doing the actual slavery, when they were throwing us into the ocean from the ship to go and claim insurance money, when they were cutting hands, even of children, because we couldn't pull enough rubber, is now. What's so special about now then?
Maybe the God of Thunder finally had enough.
After how many? After 11 million trans-Saharan slaves, and remember, most of those trans-Saharan slaves were women and girls, and then the men were castrated. So God was in heaven watching all that. He wasn't horrified enough. Then, after that, was 20 million transatlantic slaves, and I'm even using conservative figures here. 20 million. God watched all that, them throwing us in the ocean to go and claim insurance money. He didn't step in. And then it's now that to even help ourselves, what we just need to do is rise up. But no. We've been so traumatized. Even the rise up now. The Obi movement, I thought they would have turned Nigeria upside down by now with the way.
Guess what? You said it's now when we're so traumatized. And then it just reminded me of a wild animal kept in captivity for so long. And then you release that wild animal and it doesn't want to go.
Yeah, it can't. It's even almost a death sentence, even.
And it is truly,
Yeah,
to an extent, a death sentence because
yeah,
he doesn't know how to survive in the wild anymore.
yeah,
And the fear is he's used to being fed.
yeah.
He's not allowed to hunt for so long for his food.
Again, this confirms why Nigeria is a zoo.
Oh no, please. That's not. So basically, yes, we must have been so traumatized. But
Yeah,
even traumatized victims have a day when their healing actually sets in.
you
It
know,
might look impossible.
There's something I always say to Black people, just to put into context the kind of trauma we're facing. So, first of all Black people on this planet need counseling, every single one. From Australia to Papua New Guinea to Africa to the Caribbean to Brazil to America, we or every single one of us needs counseling. And all white people too. Every single white person needs counseling. But the difference is we need counseling for trauma. The trauma caused to us by white people. And white people need counseling for psychopathy. Because the trauma they've caused to us to do all that with a normal mind state and eye, and actually think that that's normal. Come on, nah, man. There's something wrong. That's one. And then two, black people need to realize there's four things here now. Need to realize that one, and I mean all just like from Australia, Papua New Guinea, Africa, Caribbean, Brazil, America, all of us need to realize you are the you are the victims of the greatest war ever in human history. Greatest, bar none. 1,000 years of warfare. A war declared by the Arabs 1,000 years ago when they started coming to the Sudan to come and look for God, glory, and gold, and declared 600 years ago by the Pope, 1492, with that papal bull. That is nothing more than a declaration of war. 1,000 years of other people declaring war against us. And let's look at what they even did. So they turn up, they start killing people, kidnapping, raping. Is that not a war? Well, was it a picnic? Was it business? So by virtue of being the victims of the greatest ever war in human history, we're also the victims of the greatest ever crime against humanity. On its own, the transatlantic slave trade should be number one contender for greatest crime against humanity. Trans-Saharan slave trade on its own as well should be a contender. In fact, two of them, top three of top five, two of them. And then on top of that, colonialism should be another contender, top five. Crimes that, what, do you want to compare 1,000 years of Arab slave trade, 600 years of European slavery in one form or another to 4 years of killing six? I know YouTube is going to vex now because I said, but I
What did you say?
don't do
What
all
was the
that.
last thing you said?
Jews. Me, I
Okay,
don't do
no,
all that.
don't.
Me,
Let's
I
not
don't.
go there
Yeah,
because
me, I don't even
they'll
do all
end up
that.
just,
You know, but I'm trying to put things in context. That was just 4 years. I'm sorry, 6 years, and 6 million of them. The Biafran War alone was 6 million Igbos. I haven't even put that in. It will probably be top 10 greatest crimes against humanity. That Biafran War. Because that was a genocide that was allowed to happen. All because we were stuck in a state with other people sharing state apparatus. So I said, we're the victims of the greatest ever war, victims of the greatest ever crime against humanity and genocide. Third, we're the victims of the greatest ever social engineering experiment. Because yes, even though that the hot active phase of the war is over, we're now going through the prisoner of war and subjugative phase, where they're now socially re-engineered, which is why we're speaking English, Christians, Muslims, speaking Arabic, French. This is social re-engineering. The greatest social re-engineering project ever in human history, an entire continent reorientated from the ancestral paradigm. And finally, fourth, we're the victims of the greatest ever wealth transfer in human history. Well, they talk about the 2008 bubble. That's peanuts. Well, how much was that? You want to talk about 1,000 years of free labor for the Arabs, 600 years of free labor, 300 years of free labor for the Europeans. The 100 years of resources for nothing on the dollar, $0 colonialism. And then today, as you can see, what they were doing to Niger, the price for uranium was a kilo, but they were paying Niger 88 cents a kilo,
Not even a dollar.
transferring wealth. And when all of us run into diaspora, work for them, pay into their
Mhm.
pension schemes, we're transferring our wealth. We've been transferring wealth. See, before Europe engaged on this, their global conquest, they were the poorest part of the planet. The Roman Empire had destroyed, the Roman Empire had chopped down all the trees to make weapons, forts, smelt gold, smelt bronze, which was why the Roman Empire, they were fighting those Germanic tribes, because that was the last place for tree that there was virgin forest in Europe. Because they cut all the trees in Spain, Italy. Go to Italy today, you hardly see any forests. They were even exporting trees from Northern Africa. And then by the time of the Crusades, when the Muslims stopped them from accessing India and China via the Silk Route, Europe became poor. Look at them today, telling us they are first world and we're third world. On whose money? Whose wealth were you transferring? 600 years free labor from slavery, all the stolen resources from colonization, plus today using the companies under neo-colonialism. Look at all the cities they built for themselves, shining, train, everything, remote control. And then today, they are now telling us, oh, you can't industrialize how we did because it's going to pollute the environment. And they want to carry on the wealth transfer, telling us we have to go green. And they know that green is not going to be enough for us. And obviously, they have to go green first and then show us the way. That's how they roll, in it. And we know that they're not going to show us the way because, first of all, when they were developing with petroleum, they said they were going to show us the way. Did they show us anything? Where are the industries in Africa? They didn't show us nothing. And now, a lot of the scientists have been coming out to say that going green is even going to destroy the environment more than petroleum. You think they're going to show you anything after? When they go finish going green, sorry, it destroys the environment. It's even worse. Oh, sorry, you can't do it. That's what they're going to do.
It's an experiment on ending.
So yeah, we're the victims of those four things: the greatest ever war in human history, the greatest ever crime against humanity and genocide, the greatest ever genocide. And in fact, if you combine the trans-Saharan slave trade, transatlantic colonialism, nobody should even try and bring anything to compare. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
And we know all these things are still running, and they all run concurrently. So it's
yeah.
still going on. The Pope hasn't rescinded that papal bull that started all this stuff. Why hasn't he rescinded it if it's still not going on? And people have tried to get him to rescind it. Why is he refusing to rescind it? So the greatest ever war, greatest ever genocide, greatest ever social engineering experiment, which is why I keep talking about this self-determination is the only way to end this social experiment we're the victims of. It's not them determining it for you. Self-determination as it comes. You determining yourself.
No.
And then victims of the greatest ever wealth transfer in human history. To the point where, you hear of China asking for $10 trillion reparation from Britain for the Opium Wars. India asking for, well, not asking for, but, some economists did the calculations. India's reparation is an estimated 44, $45 trillion for the 200 years of colonialism under Britain. The African Americans, I can't remember the figure I think there's something like $17 trillion. Do you know how much Africa's reparation for slave trade alone is estimated at. And this just to give you a figure. When I say wealth transfer, so that people understand that is not just an arbitrary quote I'm plucking from the air. I mean it. Do you know how much the reparation in dollars just for slave trade alone has been estimated for Africa from the West?
How much?
800 trillion.
Where's that going to come from?
They can't pay it. They would rather go to war than pay it. They paid it, their economies will collapse. Every single one will collapse. They're never going to pay it. But this is the amount. You just try and put that in your head.
And that's the reason they've never
100
accepted
Huh?
openly about the African one.
Sorry?
And that's the reason they have openly not accepted the reparation
Yeah,
for Africa.
yeah. Tiny little Jamaica, their own reparation is 2 trillion from Britain, just Britain, 2 trillion. So Africa,
Do the
800,
math.
and even that 800 trillion for Africa, I think that's conservative. And this is minus colonialism and
Mhm.
neo-colonialism.
Mhm.
By the time we're probably going to be talking 2 quadrillion.
That would be a debt of a lifetime for the entire Western world. Starman, as always educating, opening, in fact, bringing information that all of us would not ordinarily just go and search for and get. All these figures, all of these things.
I'm always
But
falling into
it's still
rabbit
in
holes.
tune with the conversation we're having today in Nigeria at 63 and talking about how Nigeria could have been the hope of the black race. And so sad. Like I said, when I started the broadcast today, it wasn't about coming here to paint a beautiful picture. It wasn't about coming here to give faith talk, which is what we do a lot of times. We just keep hoping and professing positive things because, of course, there is power in the tongue. So when we talk positive, we recreate our world in the positive. But guess what? There are just some things you will talk and talk and talk. There has to be some actions,
Yep,
practical, tangible things
yep,
that must be done to
yeah. Talk
follow.
is cheap.
Talk is cheap, as they say.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, there's really nothing to celebrate about. If you do ask me, yeah, we're grateful for life. We're grateful to see another day. But that is life. It is something that every single person on the planet Earth is grateful for. That is not a blessing, that is what we should be celebrating as Africans, as Nigerians on our Independence Day. Okay? It's just like a parent, you have children, it is your obligation to feed, clothe them, protect them, shelter them. So when the Creator made us, this is something that comes with Him giving us life. Okay? So as Nigeria turns 63, I cannot find anything to celebrate about. I cannot see anything to celebrate about. And I'm not coming here today to, you know, put a very nice makeup like I have on my face to make Nigeria look as good as possible. No. We've told ourselves that lie for far too long, and it's time that we change the lies because we've talked the lies for so long, we've believed the lies, and now is the time. We must leave for the next generation something they can work with to create a future for themselves, a future they will be proud of, and a story will be told that once upon a time, this was the situation like China, Singapore, Malaysia can tell in this lifetime. Okay, so we've gone on for far longer than I anticipated or wanted. But of course, with Starman, you don't want to miss a moment. We've learned a lot. Sinovia Indigo says, I always enjoy the education. Absolutely. I learn something new every time Starman is here, and I'm thankful. Thank you for trying. Okay, Starman.
Hi,
Thank you for
Zainuvia.
trying.
Our our regular, our
Yes,
favorite,
Sinovia is
our
family.
favorite
She's
regular.
family on Africa Rice TV. King Kenyatta, thank you for coming, and our brother from Guinea-Bissau as well.
King
So yes,
Kenyatta.
let's do this again, and food for thoughts. Now we know what the problem is. Let's look for a way to profile solution or to solve the issues or to get, you know, medication, prescription medication. This is not over the counter kind of medicine we need for Nigeria's problem. Okay. So,
That's why I said counseling. We need counseling. You
yeah.
know?
So, sadly, that's what it is. Sadly, I watched the TV today watching Nigeria's president giving Independence Day speech, and there was no pride in me. Yes, no pride, not a percentage of pride. Okay. So, on that note, we just want to say thank you for joining us. Like, follow, subscribe to all of our channels. If you haven't done so, it's Africa Rice TV on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you do subscribe, please press the bell button so that you are made aware when we do come on live. And on Facebook as well. I love you all. God bless you for everyone who stayed with us throughout this broadcast for almost 2 hours. Take care and see you next weekend, God willing. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye bye, Susan.